Welcome to the second video of The Paladin in Hell. If you missed the first one, I would suggest to watch it before moving on to the second part. The story of our campaign will continue with the group investigating and interrogating anyone that might help them. While the party continues their search, a mephit arrives and gives them a message. I can provide the means to recover what have been lost, but I will give it only to those who ask it in person. Signed, Emerical the Chaotic. Continuing their research, the group can find that Emerical the Chaotic is a well-known wizard of great power that disappeared roughly about 30 years ago when he and another mighty wizard named Tinnerstorn battled on a tip of a narrow peninsula called Harrow Point. The magical power unleashed in that battle left behind a continuous storm of strange magical destruction. The resulting magical conflagration was assumed to have destroyed both of them. The storm of this devastating magical power is called Metal Storm, and in essence is a cataclysm of metallic shards of all sizes. The shards are coming from another plane of existence and are relentlessly collapsing with each other, producing deafening sounds and sharp deadly objects exploding to all directions. At the center of that storm, though, there is a hidden peaceful hollow location where the Tower of Emerical lies. The Harrow area is not safe at all, since the fabric of existence has been weathered with all the unstable raw magical power around it. The players have an actual 1% chance to step inside a rip in that reality and found themselves into another plane of existence. Cool, right? Well, I told you, this adventure is one of the deadliest, and I really meant it. There are multiple situations in the adventures where you have to roll a save or die. Well, this, of course, is 2nd edition D&D, and the rule system allowed it, but also there's a great wealth and powerful magical items. So the players are going to reach the center of the storm and gain access to the Tower of Emerical, who will inform them that the temple is stuck between the 5th and the 6th layer of hell, and the only way to transport there is with his demon ship, called the Demon Wing, a modified ship that it is able to traverse the river Styx into the depths of hell. Hence, they are going to be teleported to the docks and into the demon ship. Thousands of years ago, the demon god Demogorgon had an idea. Considering that the layers of the abyss are unaccountable and expendable as well as malleable, he commissioned demonic smiths to take an entire layer and make of it a sailing ship. The ship was called the Demon Wing and could take its passengers to any location on the lower planes. To serve as commander of the ship, Demogorgon appointed the Baelor Strayoth. Hundreds of years later, Strayoth grew discontent. He turned Demon Wing over to his subordinate, Ungurth, and passed into the lower deck areas of the ship. Even more hundreds of years later, in some dark pact, Demogorgon traded the ship with Emerical the Chaotic. Strayoth began plotting to be free and unfettered to take his ship where he desired. Now his domain well defended, his servants forging new weapons day and night, and with his countless alliances with other dark forces of the multiverse, he is almost ready to seize the ship once and for all. The moment a group touches their feet upon the Demon Wing, through the only way of entering it, the gangplank at the dock of Emerical, the journey instantly starts. As the PCs watch in horror, expecting to be chopped to shreds in the metal storm, the environment around the ship changes, becoming blurry and insubstantial. They are officially traversing the river Styx, a 3-day journey that is filled with all kinds of interesting and weird encounters that they're only limited by your imagination. Quickly the group will realize that if they want to exit the ship, they will have to move from the stern castle to the main hatch, which is on the front of the ship. Something easier said than done, obviously. The second part of this adventure will be the effort of the group to move through the living Demon Wing layer of abyss, finding their way outside to the location that it's between the 5th and the 6th layer, where the entrance of the Cold Steel Temple exists. From now on, the adventure will turn into the deadly dungeon crawl that it is. The group will encounter all kinds of things: demons, monsters, traps, more traps, deadlier traps, ambushes, and of course, more demons of all kinds of power. Just to have an understanding of roughly where each combat takes place, the groups are going to meet skeletons, they're going to deal with Hezru demons, water elementals, ambushing Vrox, Balgures, a demon giant Garistro, deadly Alufiends, Githyanki Dark Knights, Githyanki Gish, a major Gambian half-breed demon called Thriakil, multiple demon rays, vampiric high priests, succubus, the list simply just goes on. Now add to the mix that many rooms have deadly traps, and you will soon find out what I mean when I say that this is one of the deadliest adventures that you can run for your group. If the group manages to reach the Temple of Demogorgon and deal with the Marilith and its companions, they're going to find two magical gateways. The right one will lead the group into Area 19, and one really difficult fight with Strayoth in a room that has 3 floors that they are all made out of transparent glass steel, filled with custom-made spells from the Baylor that when triggered, Thessal Hydra, Gorgimira, Behir, or a giant troll with 2 heads could be summoned to fight the group. Taking the left portal will lead the group into the Canyon of Insects. Within the canyon, an abyssal dragon is protecting the tower that is home of Strayoth the Baylor. If he escaped the players from room 19, he will be found in his chambers. Killing him and retrieving the key that opens the hatch that will lead the group into the main deck of the ship again is imperative. By doing so, the group will finish the second big part of this story. The group now will find themselves in Stygia, Hell's 5th layer. Demonwing will stop between 2 mountainous icebergs. Geryon the Devil is the one that created the ice fortress of Coldsteel in the ice deep within the 5th Hell, and readied their armies to attack to gain control of the Temple of Neheod. He wants, after all, to gain Asmodeus' support over Levistus and regain his own position in power. The group will find some unexpected allies in the form of Styx Devils. They are spies that they are supporting Levistus and have no fealty to Geryon. Prince Levistus discovered Coldsteel and currently commands his agents to watch and observe. They know how to enter the fortress, but they do not know what the fortress holds. The spies take the form of an upper-planar being, helping the group, telling them that Geryon, the Archdevil, has a fortress down below the water, and that they should look for the cave in the ice. The PCs will find the diving spheres that are residing within the Demonwing, and they're going to start their descent into the depths of the cold water. They will always have to bear in mind that the river Styx is a dangerous place. If the water touches you, you're losing all of your memories, an effect that should not be taken lightly. The players can find 3 different ways to enter the underground fortress of Coldsteel. Their descent is filled with encounters. Most notably, they are fighting giant megalodons, colossal sarks, unlike anything they've ever seen before in Prime Material Plane. This brings us to the third part of this adventure, when the players are actually getting into the Citadel of Coldsteel, the ice fortress that Geryon has designed ahead of time, knowing that the Temple of Neheod would appear below the layer. In various areas of Coldsteel, Geryon has large clocks installed on the walls. Black skulls on a cold steel rounded clock face mark the time. A single hand moves slowly around the face, its black length shaped to appear like a clawed hand holding a wicked blade. The clock ticks loudly and ominously. All of these magical clocks are linked and synchronized. The exact units of time in which they count down are unfamiliar to the PCs. All they can discern is that the clocks count down to some event marked by a red skull on the clock's face as the hands move. The players have 30 turns before the Devil Seed is released. When these happen, a portal opens leading to the pit, where most of the lemurs, lowest of devils, are about to swarm the area. This is Geryon's last hope, that this place is going to be overrun and overwhelmed by his minions. Crafty players can find ways to extend the apocalypse. Entering the caves, the PCs will deal with another wave of dangerous and deadly creatures. Gurdansk, a horribly transformed devil that will welcome the players with devastating attacks. Oceloths and imps, black abyssai, brown mold, Nuperibo, rock grubs, flame skulls, winterwolves, and brain golems. One of the most difficult encounters, it is going to be with Amon, along with his special winter wolf Solfang, and later on with Cosby. Both of them are the last cohorts of Geryon. If the group manages to stay alive, they are going to find the stairs that lead to the second level of the fortress. The fights, of course, are going to continue, leading them into an intricate elevator mechanism that we'll have to experiment with to move them around the fortress, hopefully reaching level 3 of Coldsteel Fortress. And this is going to be the layer when they're going to find Gerion's chambers, and in it, the Archdevil himself. If they manage to kill him, they're going to find a scroll sent to Gerion from Asmodeus. It reads to Gerion, soon to be master of the fifth hell once again. I am gladdened that the Citadel Coldsteel nears completion. Your motivational techniques must be greater than ever before. Once the temple arrives, you must break through its defenses quickly. The attack should be simple. The mortals will be surprised and unprepared. Once inside, recover for me the Valis crystal from what they call the Holy of Holies. Bring it to me, and your ascension to the ranks of the Lord of the Nine is assured. The Lord of Nessus. Moving on, the dedicated players will find a meeting room with map of Temple of Nehead with an X on it. In that same room, it's an interesting encounter that could be run. A Mind Flayer, a Medusa, a Beholder, and an Erinia are having a meeting to prepare for attack. Obviously, the creatures know the PCs are capable enough to be here, so they're willing to talk before the fight erupts. Any way you can trick your players to not kill them and send them to an ambush will give you an inspiration point as an evil game master. Using the elevator once again, the players will arrive at the final level of the fortress. This is where the thousands of lemurs will be spawned if the Doomsclock are not stopped by the players or the 30 turns pass. Also, a Nicodemon guards this room. Arriving in this room, it is obvious to the players that a battle took place. Corpses of mortals and devils are scattered everywhere. The temple doors are smashed open, maggots and vermin feasting on the dead already. From the side passage, the players hear the sound of combat. 3 wooden humans fight half a dozen devils. If the NPCs are saved, they're going to provide with some information regarding the temple, but after all, they're not gonna trust anything in this godforsaken place. So, they are willing to just leave the area. Finally, the group will have arrived at the ripped from the world and thrust into the pit of hell Temple of Nehead. I think this is an appropriate time for me to set up the timeline of the events since the temple was devoured. The temple lies here at least 3 to 5 days depending on the speed and the efficiency of the players. Those who came to pay their respects to Clysandrel's funeral donned their armor along with the paladin himself, who jumped out of the coffin in his spiritual form and took the forefront of the temple's defense. The initial assault of the devils was powerful, but they were not prepared to face the number and the quality of the temple's defenders. The devils were driven back. Gerion marshaled his forces and sent them again and again and again. Some days into the fight, Clysandrel heard some weird noise coming from the back of the temple. He discovered devils from the 6th layer of hell that had honed in to gain access to the temple. He charged in and stood alone against them. Without him to defend against the attacks from the 5th layer of hell, the forces of good started to falter. The remaining defenders established the Holy of Holies as their final point of defense and prepared to make their last stand, since they have no idea where Clysandrel was. For the group to restore the temple to the prime material plane, they must gather as much restoration points as possible. The Bonds of Hell spell is not permanent, and the group can break it if they manage to successfully deal with most of the evil spreading within it. Those points are gathered either by killing devils or generally evil monsters, rebuilding damaged portion of the temple, or if they are blessing undead creatures, perhaps if they resurrect fallen worshippers that they found dead within the temple, and finally if they find and raise the fallen priests. Of course, it's easy to lose many of those restoration points if they're not careful. If they kill any newly created undead that they used to be worshippers of the temple, or if they defenders that die after they arrive at the area, and perhaps if they destroy the really important symbols of the temple, those are lead into losing restoration points. If the group gathers 1,000 points, the temple will be restored, and with it, all the people inside. So, from now on, the players will have to think before they act. They should not mindlessly kill everything they see. For instance, killing the animated statues at the entrance of the temple that they will attack them will lead into losing a staggering amount of restoration points. Cleansing those statues, on the other hand, will give them a lot of those restoration points back. The constant fights against devils and monsters will continue, while the players will find some of the survivors on different areas of the temple. The adventure will have situations where the players might want to act in one way, breaking a scene towards the Holy of Holies to break the spirit of the defenders, for instance, and in the process they're going to be killing the tortured person. Or they should take some time and investigate, finding clever ways to disarm those devilish creations and save more people in the process, accumulating more points. Of course, opportunities to misdirect and deceive the group will also increase as they move along. A good example is an acolyte that we will find cowering when in reality he is possessed by a devil. This will lead into interesting encounters at the least expected times if the players will not identify his real identity. They're going to gather slowly enough information about this location. Many prisoners will be found willing to help them. Torturers, devils are found everywhere, pit fiends ready to attack and kill anything that is good, but also hiding in secret rooms, more survivors can be found, even some with powerful friends. The altar of the temple is defiled and the players will need to cleanse it. But before that, if someone touches, dark energies will come forth. If the players fails to resist those energies, the spirit of the player is going to be sucked into the altar and an evil spirit will take its place, possessing him and pretending that he is that actual player. Since the spirit is a skilled deceiver, the game master and the player will have an amazing opportunity to do pretty much anything they think of. There are ways, of course, to revert that, and so your imagination can go as wild as you like. I know for a fact that mine did. Joining the defending group at the Holy of Holies is the next step of the party. They're going to be filled in about the details and the incidents that took place, and they also are going to witness myriad of artifacts that they are protecting. The Valis crystal is among them. Here, the traitor Oriad is still residing, fooling everyone to this point. Moving on, the players will face more deception, torturing worshippers that in reality are greater Raksasas, accompanied by hellborn vampires that will try to end the players once and for all. An unholy warrior accompanied by his death priest will be encountered. He will be using his tortured, now blind worshippers as shields while attacking the group, making this combat a really tricky one if the players want to keep the worshippers alive and not lose valuable restoration points. Moving on, the players will find the pit fiend that is in charge of all undead within the temple. If they manage to kill him, that causes all the undead to fall into their natural state of peaceful death. Keep on the investigation of the vicinity allows the players to walk these magical steps that are created by a wish spell by Geryon in an effort to gain entrance to the Holy of Holies. He failed, but in the process he created a set of steps that leads to different places within the temple, and more importantly, at the secret area that lies within the lava pool in room 10. This is the lair of the pit fiends. Eventually, the group will find the entrance to the 6th layer of hell, Malboards, where Malagard, the ruler of that layer, does not know why devils need to get to that temple, but if they have a reason to do so, so does she. Here, Clysandral's spirit can be found, fighting what it seems to be limitless armies of hell. The PCs can help him for a bit, but soon they are going to realize that the paladin will hold this front by himself while they will have to restore the temple to the surface. He informs the players that Loviath was one that casted the spell. So finally here we are. This is the end of the adventure. If the players have managed to accumulate all the points needed to restore the temple, they have roughly about 10 rounds to reach the paladin once more before the temple will be back in prime material plane. If they fail to get to him, his soul will be forever damned to hell, where he will fought over by archdevils for aeons. Take a moment to realize how beautifully ruthless this adventure is. If the players fail to get to the paladin in time, his soul will be trapped in hell to face the armies of hell for all eternity. Well, if the groups will be successful, and they bring back the actual temple and the paladin within it, then of course they're going to be heroes that have proven themselves. And of course they will have the eternal gratitude of Clysandral, who will leave him with this: "As I depart, it is good to know that I leave the world in such good hands. The forces of light will always need champions like you." With that, his spirit will fade to his well-deserved rest, and his body will be properly buried, leaving with the group being the saviors of the day, Now, if they fail to restore the temple, hence not saving the paladin because Glissandral will not leave this area if the temple is not saved, it's not the end of everything. They could take back Valis Crystal and they actually averting the plans of Asmodeus. That in itself is not a small task. Of course, after all, there are going to be countless of open hooks for the players to deal with after this adventure is done. And this is how the Paladin in Hell comes to an end. If you managed to stay to the end, a huge thank you goes to you. I'm still trying to find the best structure for those videos, so your input will be greatly appreciated. If you have an adventure you would like to suggest, please be my guest. Leave it in the comments below. Do not forget to subscribe, share and like this video if you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one. This was the RPG Lore Master, and I hope your descent to hell was as fun as mine.